It's good to be back. What is going on, Dodger fans? Thank you for listening to an NL West winning episode of the Incline Dodgers podcast presented by Tick Pick, the Los Angeles Dodgers on September 25th, 2025 clinch their 12th NL West title in 13 seasons. Jake Reiner, Kevin Klein here. Jake, how are you feeling today about the Dodgers taking home another NL West crown, this time in Arizona?
When you look at the beginning of the season, Kevin, and you think about what the season's going to be like, we're always talking about a very similar thing, which is, what is this team going to look like when they make the playoffs? There was never any doubt in my mind that this team would make the playoffs. I think that they have underachieved. If a 90-win team can underachieve, I believe this team did underachieve because I feel like the talent on this team is better than what we saw. I feel like the talent in that bullpen specifically is better than what we've seen so far this year. And despite all that, despite losing Max Muncy for months at a time, the starting rotation not coming into full effect until the second half, losing Will Smith, losing a ton of guys in the bullpen, despite all of it, they are NL West champs again. And like Dave Roberts said in his speech before they sprayed the champagne, the NL West goes through the Dodgers, and you have to beat the Dodgers in order to take that from us. And over the last few seasons in a row, it's just not been the case. And so I'm very happy that they were able to do it. I think it's nice to know that we can rest easy where we are in terms of the seeding now, and we can get ready for our opponent at home in the wild card round as opposed to on the road.
We will talk about those potential opponents and which matchup we have the most preference with. I will also note that I am recording live in Maui, Hawaii right now, so I don't have my audio equipment, so apologies in advance if the audio sounds a little rougher than usual. We also have a big announcement, which we'll get to maybe in 15 minutes or so. And then there's been a lot of movement with some Dodgers postseason bullpen, or with some Dodgers bullpen arms, and how that will probably potentially shape out the postseason. We got to talk Clayton Kershaw and his last outing at Dodger Stadium as well. But let's go back to, the NL West clinching game today. So the Dodgers are currently 90-69 with 3 games left. That game back in August against the Padres, August 24th to be exact, was a declaration day for me. I said this was a must-win game. Whoever wins this game will win the NL West. We are now at the point that if the Dodgers had lost that game and we fast forward to today, they'd only be 1 game up with 3 games left for the NL West standings. And the Padres, they've got to play the Diamondbacks, who are trying to make a wild card berth. The Dodgers would have to go to Seattle, who's trying to fight for a 1 seed in the American League. So I think it's kind of relaxing that the Dodgers took care of business in convincing fashion, for that matter, over the Diamondbacks today. Freddie Freeman went nuclear, had a couple home runs. He's now up to 23 home runs. Yoshinobu Yamamoto pitched fantastic today for the Dodgers. Let's talk about his season, because in recent memory, I know obviously Kershaw had great seasons for the Dodgers, of course. Zach Greinke had some great seasons for the Dodgers, obviously. Walker Buehler was the last Dodgers starting pitcher to record 200-plus strikeouts in a season. He did that in 2021. Yoshinobu Yamamoto finished the 2025 regular season with 201 strikeouts, a 2.49 ERA, a FIP also below 3, 12 wins because he never got run support. Probably should have been closer to a 20-game winner, and a WHIP below 1. So with Yamamoto's second season in the books, Jake, kind of just touch upon how we feel about the work he put in.
He was the ace of the staff, Kevin. I mean, there's really no 2 ways around it. He made every single start that the Dodgers asked him to make. And the way that they restructured this rotation for there to be 6 days, or a 6-man rotation, to give Yamamoto extra rest, obviously helped him this year. And he's been nothing short of terrific. And like you mentioned, I think that his record does not reflect actually how dominant he was, because whether it was the offense not providing him any run support, Tanner Scott blowing literally every game that he came in to save for Yamamoto. And of course, those were either losses or no decisions. So for him to have the record that he did have and just the rest of the stats, he's been awesome. And I think what you saw today and yesterday, Kevin, that's what it's going to take for the Dodgers to win in the postseason, because it's either going to be a game where they have to mix and match out of that bullpen like crazy and put guys in spots they've never been in to win a game like that, or it's going to be more like what we saw today, where the offense just absolutely puts the game out of reach. And if the offense does that, the starting pitching is just so good that they're going to win every game like that. I mean, and again, that's hard to ask an offense to do, but these last two games is the blueprint for winning in October for this team.
Offense is absolutely going to need to step up this postseason, especially with the shaky bullpen. And plus, trust me, I've got a lot of takes on this Dodgers bullpen. There's been a lot of pending frustration. I think Yoshinobu Yamamoto is going to run away with the National League Pitcher of the Month. I mean, over his last 5 starts, he's got an 0.79 ERA, 44 strikeouts across 34 and a third innings thrown. What you want to see from a starter is him throwing his absolute best at the latest point in the season, and that's been Yamamoto. I mean, normally you kind of get worried with fatigue and guys kind of getting shaky and losing some mechanics and velocity drop, and they start to get shelled, especially in the month of September post All-Star break. And Yamamoto has actually been the opposite. He saved his best stuff for this portion of the season. And so with him starting today, Thursday, and the first game of the NL wild card scheduled to be on a Tuesday, I believe, September 30th. That's only 4 full days rest for Yamamoto. So I'm actually a little surprised here. I would guess he's not going to be their game 1 wild card starter, which I kind of thought was going to be their game plan, where you want your best guy on the mound. But it's kind of looking like they might be looking to save Yamamoto for potentially game 1 of the NLDS if they get there, or at a worst case scenario, game 3 of a wild card series.
I would say that if this was the case last year, right, you might just fast track him this once and say, we need you on 4 days rest, or they probably would have prevented him from starting today if the Dodgers had the starting pitching that they had last year. But given the surplus of starting pitching that they have right now and a bunch of guys who could be aces on any other squad, I think they have the luxury to give Yamamoto the rest that he needs, that he's been, accustomed to this whole year, and start a guy like, Snell or even Ohtani game 1 or Glasnow. And I think that the 3 of those pitchers, having those guys lined up 1, 2, 3, however you stack them, I think is as good as you're going to get.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be Glasnow unless they scratch him, because he's supposed to start in this Seattle Mariners series. But kind of the way things are lined up right now, this is what I was saying the last time we recorded, although I slated him for game 2. But I mean, game 1 and game 2, it doesn't really matter in the wild card. You can flip flop them however you want. Shohei Ohtani, I think, is starting game 1 of this wild card series, and I feel good about it. He leads all major league pitchers with at least 47 innings thrown, since that's what Ohtani's thrown this year, with FIP, a 1.91 fielding independent pitching. I mean, the guy has a 2.87 ERA this season as well, 62 strikeouts over 47 innings thrown. And this is a guy that's not afraid to dial it up to 101, 102 miles per hour. And he throws a very nasty sweeper that I've noticed he's kind of perfected in his arsenal, as opposed to when he was on the Angels. He didn't really throw that sweeper as nasty as he has since putting on a Dodgers uniform. So I think Ohtani is probably going game 1 or game 2, and Blake Snell will be his co-pilot.
I agree. And then game 3 will likely be Glasnow. I thought you said he would be gearing up for game 1 of the NLDS.
Worst case scenario, you have to go with Yamamoto in game 3 because it's a do or die.
Yeah, it's elimination. Yeah. So yeah, then they would have him for game 3 or game 1 of the NLDS. Yep. So I guess with that configuration, Kevin, what would you do in terms of, using Glasnow or not during this series? I mean, is that someone that we're thinking that could come out of the bullpen like Kershaw or Sheehan?
Yeah, so one of the biggest giveaways will be, is Glasnow even rostered on the wild card roster to begin with? Because if they could just leave him off if they have no plans to pitch him at all, and you could put on another reliever or someone that might be on the cusp of making the playoff roster, like a Robleski or a Will Klein. And we'll do a breakdown of who we think is going to make the roster in a little bit. But I think with Glasnow, I would try to avoid him at all costs, because I do want to have some fresh arms ready and slated for the NLDS. But I mean, if they do get to a game 3, then it's all hands on deck at that point. Like, anyone that's available, you have to go with them. So if they have to go with Yamamoto for 5 innings and Glasnow for 3 innings to fight off elimination, then so be it. But I think unless games 1 and game 2, they get through those without a problem, I would hold off on using Glasnow unless we get to that game 3 situation that I just mentioned.
Right. So it would make a difference, obviously, if he's on the roster or not, because if he's not on the roster, then they can't use him. So that's an interesting problem that they have to discuss, because there are a ton of guys in that bullpen I just don't trust. And I think that with the surplus of starting pitching that they have, these guys are just going to have to go out there and do things they're not used to doing, because we don't really have a choice. And I could think of worse guys to have to do that, like Glasnow and Sasaki and Kershaw. I mean, like, these names are, I mean, any team would love to have those pitchers do anything for them. So I think the Dodgers are going to lean heavily on their starting pitching to help them win games in the playoffs. And a lot of these guys that they have in the bullpen right now, as we've seen in Arizona and the last few series, they just can't be trusted.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Drop some questions for us as well. We'll be happy to answer any celebratory Dodgers questions or tackle postseason topics. I'm going to throw it out there right now. I believe the number would have been game 158, which would have been yesterday. I think I have that right, if I'm doing the math correctly. Game 158 was the most indicative most indicative game of what's going to tell us about this remaining of the Dodgers season going forward, for a few reasons. Number one, Shohei Ohtani was able to pitch 6 innings without a problem. The guy probably could have gone 8, if we're being honest. He looked completely in sync. There was really no signs at all that he was battling any fatigue. The Diamondbacks couldn't figure him out. The game was just in complete control and in smooth motion for Shohei Ohtani. Unfortunately, the Dodgers bullpen imploded and they blew the game. And so Ohtani got, yet again, another no decision. Like the last time he went out there and threw 5 no-hit innings, also got a no decision. So I'm sure that's a little frustrating for Ohtani. Number 2, Roki Sasaki pitched in high leverage. I think that was a big telling point of what's going to happen with Roki Sasaki now in terms of the playoffs. Even though he's thrown 1 professional inning at the major league level in high leverage, I don't think they care, because Kirby Yates sucks. Tanner Scott sucks. Blake Triton's been a total disaster. Roki Sasaki didn't even have to do anything. He passed them all on the totem pole. Number 3, it's pretty telling that they're also not afraid to now use Clayton Kershaw in high leverage. They brought Clayton Kershaw out there in a tie game, I believe it was the 8th or 9th inning, and he went 1, 2, 3, no problem. I think Clayton Kershaw is also now ahead of Tanner Scott in terms of the trust tree. And if it's a 3-run or less lead, I think they go to Clayton Kershaw before they go to Tanner Scott.
It's not even a question at this point. Tanner Scott has lost all trust of everybody, the fans, Dave Roberts, the front office. I cannot fathom a scenario where you send him out in high leverage before all these other guys we're talking about. And that game that they lost with Ohtani on the mound is just so disheartening, because like you said, he was in complete control. 6 shutout innings. They were up 4-0. And last year, it seemed, Kevin, it was like they got a 4-0 lead late and It was just over at that point. Like there was no way a team was going to come back on them. And now it's like every time the starting pitcher leaves the mound, you're going, I hope they can get it. I hope they can close this game. I hope they can save this game. But you're never really sure. And most of the time, the thing you can be certain of is that they're going to blow it. And that's just a crazy way to watch a team as elite as this every single night. So what I was saying earlier is that they need to overcome this bad bullpen. The offense needs to overcome it. And that's what you saw in the game the next night, because they had a lead late, blew it similarly, but didn't give up the lead. And they actually had some great moments from Jack Dreyer, who the night before pitched poorly, came back, pitched, in a very high leverage spot, could not give up a run. Blake Trinan came in, did his thing, and you start to think like, okay, there's the Blake Trinan we know. There's the Jack Dreyer we've seen throughout the whole season. That's going to be the recipe, is that can the Dodgers score enough runs to overcome a bullpen giving up a lead? Because it is going to happen, and they just need to be able to react to it.
Tanner Scott has been just so bad. I mean, ERA of basically 5. He's given up 11 home runs, which is a career high. The most he ever had given up in a season before putting on a Dodgers uniform was 6. He's leading all of Major League Baseball with 10 saves. And to put that in perspective,
10 blown saves, you mean?
10. Yeah, sorry. He blew 10 saves. If you put that in perspective, with Craig Kimbrell only blew 5 saves as a Dodger, and we were losing our minds with each of his outings. But even going that far, you double that with Tanner Scott. 10 blown saves is unacceptable. Unfortunately, I do think he will still be on this Dodgers playoff roster, but in a very, very low leverage situation. Dodgers up 7-0, Dodgers down 5-0, 9th inning, Dodgers up 8-0. Scenarios like that. I think Tanner Scott has lost the trust of everyone within the Dodgers organization. And I'd go as far to saying that they should trade him this offseason. And no team's going to take him for that contract as a whole. I'm willing to be, I know it's not my money, but I'm willing to just throw it out there. If the Dodgers pay for half that contract for him to pitch elsewhere, I'm good with that, because I cannot go more years of Tanner Scott in my life. It's just killing me.
Yeah, I think what's more likely to happen is that they let him try to bounce back in season 2. That's what I see happening. But again, it's like the postseason could change things, right? It could either, force their hand, like you're mentioning, and trade him in the offseason if he's just horrendous or does something horrific. But I think the Dodgers are smart enough now to realize that they're not going to find themselves in a situation like that, unless it's like the last man out of the bullpen and he has to pitch, and in which case I hope he succeeds. But there's also another scenario where he, for some reason, figures it out and is able to really be a serviceable reliever in the postseason. And then you say, okay, we've seen more of the old Tanner Scott that we expect. We'll keep him around for season 2. But I think, honestly, Kevin, I think they're going to give him one more shot. I mean, they've paid so much money for this guy to figure it out. Like maybe an off season to get things right and rebound. That's maybe what he needs. And then they'll reassess after that.
Sure. But yeah, this playoffs, I don't think they're going to give him any opportunities to show himself of being serviceable or bouncing back or anything. Any reps that Tanner Scott gets are going to be in the lowest of the low leverage situations. So yeah. we won't have anything to go off of. On that note of just awful relievers, I think we saw the last of Kirby Yates. They kind of cheated the system by putting him on the injured list with that hamstring injury. I didn't know the hamstring was an excuse for just how shitty he's been, because he flat out should have just been DFA'd. I mean, how do you go from a 1.17 ERA in 2024 to a 5.23 ERA exactly 1 year later. He gave up, let's see, he gave up all of 8 earned runs last year. This year, 24 of them. So he's tripled that mark. The guy has just been a flat out bust.
And usually what happens is that the Dodgers bring in a guy that's had a 5 ERA and turn him into Evan Phillips. It typically does not go the other way around, which just leads me to wonder, there's so many mysteries this year with this team that just don't make sense, like him and Tanner Scott and why are they losing so many games? Why are they not why did they get swept by the Angels? Why did it take so long for Teoscar Hernandez to get serious about playing defense in right field? Like, there's so many things that just scratch mind-boggling things that have happened this year, which is kind of remarkable when you think about the fact that they just clinched the division with all these things, because I feel like the issues that the Dodgers have dealt with this year, if any other team had dealt with them, they would be crippled by that. I mean, you're seeing what's happening to the Detroit Tigers. I mean, that is a collapse of epic proportions right there.
Good. AJ Hinch deserves that, to be honest. So I don't feel bad for the Detroit Tigers. There's that weird stat with Blake Trinan, who I think it was in 5 of the most recent Dodgers. What was it? 5 of the most recent Dodgers losses, Blake Trinan was responsible for them. I can't remember exactly what the stat was, but the point is Blake Trinan has also been a disaster. I don't know what happened to him either. 193 ERA last season, 547 ERA this season, FIP of 299, FIP of 5 this year. I don't know if he's battling injuries or he's just gotten old or it's a World Series hangover for Blake Trinan. But that's another guy that I'm a little nervous going to in high leverage right now because he's been very bad in that role.
He has, and he has been very honest about the fact that he just doesn't have it this year. But I think him coming in the night before and with the bases loaded and stranding the bases loaded and preventing the Diamondbacks from scoring, that could be it for him. He feels that high leverage, rush one more time, and he's figured it out. So I have a little bit more trust in Blake Trinan than I do in like Yates or Tanner Scott, because we know Blake Trinan. He's been there for us, year in and year out. And so I'm more willing to give him the benefit of the doubt when it comes to high leverage. But there's some other guys that, that have emerged, like Roki Sasaki is someone that we could talk about. And Alex Vesia has been pretty good consistently throughout this year, although there have been some moments where he's blown it, like in this Diamondback series, which kind of sucked. But, Jack Dreyer has been great. I mean, they're just going to have to mix and match and be really creative. And I could think of no better organization to do that than this one.
From IV, what's your most ideal road to the World Series? What's the easiest path? What would be the hardest path? So I guess the first path is the wild card round. So this is actually something I wanted to discuss with you.
Yep.
It always comes back to bite us, but just going off of what your options are, who would you take?
In terms of what teams I would want to face in the postseason?
Well, we'll start with the wild card.
I mean, I like the Mets. I like the Mets. I mean, the Mets are prone to being, to collapsing. We beat them last year. I think the Dodgers have a much better team than the Mets do. So I think in terms of the wild card, I would love to face the Mets, but I think the Reds are a great option. I wouldn't necessarily want to face the D-backs or the Padres, because then that becomes like a different vibe, because they've played us really tough in the postseason. So if I'm trying to choose which team I want in the wild card, I'm staying away from the NL West, but give me the Mets or give me the Reds. I'd take those teams for sure.
This one's interesting because I think the Diamondbacks are the most well-rounded team, but I also think they might be the least likely to even get into the wild card round now. The Mets and the Reds, they're such polar opposites, because the Mets have such a juiced lineup. I mean, you have to get through Lindor, Alonso, Juan Soto, Brandon Nimmo. I mean, Jeff
Vientos.
McNeil's Vientos is good. They have a pretty deep lineup, but their starting pitching and bullpen are kind of doo-doo. I mean, who are they going to even throw at us that really strikes fear? They're relying on a bunch of rookies right now. Helsley, I believe he's on the Mets. He's been an absolute disaster for them. Edwin Diaz is prone to blow-ups. The Mets pitching side of things, it's just not very stacked, as opposed to now the Cincinnati Reds, where their lineup really doesn't move me at all. They've got some talent, obviously, but Ellie De La Cruz has been one of the coldest hitters in the second half statistically. Matt McClain has had a terrible season. Gavin Lux is Gavin Lux. So the lineup just doesn't really strike any fear in me, but they got a pretty good 1-2 punch in their starting rotation. Hunter Green would most likely start one of those 2 games. Nick Lodolo is a pretty strong, crafty left-handed pitcher, and their bullpen has been surprisingly solid as well. So I think because I lean towards softer pitching matchups, I would say the Mets, and based off just kind of them having this awful downward spiral, Mets are my preferred path for the wild card round.
I agree with you because all 3 games are Dodger Stadium, right?
Yes.
So that honestly, if I'm choosing between the 2, I would take either one, because if you look at the Reds, I just fear like if there were any games, or if all the games were at Great American Ballpark, I'd be a little bit more fearful of the Reds, because that's just such an unpredictable park and balls just fly out of there. And so they could surprise you. But having all 3 games at Dodger Stadium just is such an advantage for the Dodgers themselves. And if the Mets pitching just doesn't show up and the Dodgers offense does, then I trust the starting pitching of this Dodgers team to be able to shut down top tier talent. Like, I would take these guys against any lineup in the majors. And again, I'm not trying to disrespect the Mets, because I feel like they do have a very potent lineup. But if I'm looking at this from a bird's eye view, the Dodgers have home field advantage. They have the better pitching. They have the better offense, just overall better team. So if the offense for the Dodgers shows up, then it should be a breeze and they should win in 2 games.
The NLDS, there's really nothing we can do about that right now. It looks like the Brewers are going to be on the other side of the bracket with the 1 seed. The Philadelphia Phillies are locked in as the 2 seed. So with that being said, the NLDS between the Dodgers and Phillies is basically going to be the World Series, in my opinion. I think whichever team wins that series goes on to win the whole World Series. I think the Phillies, with a lot of respect to them, are the other best team in the National League, in baseball for that matter. I really respect that lineup. Harper, Schwarber, Trey Turner, if he gets back out there on the field. Stott's been good. Brandon Marsh has been hot. Rio Muto at catcher. And then that starting staff, even though they lost Zach Wheeler for the rest of the season and he won't be available, Christopher Sanchez might finish second in Cy Young voting. He's been really good. Ranger Suarez is one of those guys where he can just look like Sandy Koufax out there if he's really on his game. I do have some concerns about facing him. And then Jesus Luzardo, another guy. He has been really good this season. He's been racking up the strikeouts, and he's one of those starters that I think he owned us in the first matchup of the season, but in the second turnaround, we kind of got to him. So that's a good 1-2-3 punch. Walker Buehler might be their game 4 starter potentially, and I'm not going to sleep on playoff Buehler. And I think he pitched well against us when he was on the Red Sox.
Yeah, and from what we saw the last time the Dodgers played the Phillies, which was very recently, Harper and Schwarber just owned us, just absolutely owned us. That is a lineup that scares me more than the Mets any day, the Phillies lineup. And also having to go into that ballpark, into that environment it's just tough. Now, I'm putting all my eggs in the Dodgers basket here. So if the Dodgers can't beat the Phillies, then they don't deserve to be there anyway. So I expect them, if the Dodgers are able to get past the Mets or the Reds or whomever, I expect them to beat the Phillies. Now, I'm not going to say I'm not calling for a sweep, But I think the Dodgers are the better team. So I expect them to beat the Philadelphia Phillies. But that is the toughest path. There's no way around it. I mean, we kind of discussed it in our last episode. Who would you take, the Phillies or the Brewers? And I was kind of arguing maybe the Brewers a little bit because their pitching is so good. But then you brought up all the points about the Phillies lineup and even the Phillies pitching in their bullpen. That going through Philadelphia is tough.
The Brewers pitching fell off too. Woodruff's out, I think, for potentially the rest of the season with the oblique or lat injury. And then Mizorowski is now a reliever for them. He's been cold. All they really have is Freddie Peralta, who's going to be either 2 or 3 in Cy Young voting. He's obviously tough. But besides that, I don't really care about anyone else in that Brewers rotation right now. And maybe I'll look like a jackass and the Brewers go on to win the World Series. But I need to see it to believe it. I honestly, the Phillies are the 1 for me. The Dodgers are the 2. So I hate to say it. I don't usually go against the Dodgers, but right now I lean Phillies. Like in this, if the Dodgers make it to the NLDS, I think I have to pick the Phillies in the Dodgers over 5. Phillies over Dodgers in 5.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could happen. There's with the Dodgers bullpen, it can happen. I mean, this bullpen, it's like even if the Dodgers build some kind of lead, it's like the bullpen is always looming. So,
yeah.
But if the Dodgers are able to craft a plan like they did the last postseason where they got really creative with the bullpen because the starting pitching wasn't great, they can salvage another playoffs again this way. It just is a matter of if the offense is going to rise to the occasion.
This is just stupid. Walker Buehler, 14 innings thrown with the Phillies, 0.66 ERA. Go figure.
What happened in Boston?
I mean, it's exactly what happened with the Dodgers. It's something with him, but clearly he seems to figure it out just in time for the postseason. So we'll see what happens with Walker Buehler in 2026. But focusing on this season, I don't even want to face him in the playoffs, even though he's been bad for the majority of the season.
And like, I'm not trying to advocate that baseball should have more games than they do, but I just feel like we're being shortchanged a little bit with a 5-game series between the Dodgers and Phillies if the Dodgers advance. I just feel like in terms of working your ass off the entire year for 162 games and your season could end in 3 games. Like, I just feel like a 7-game series in the DS and the NLCS and the World Series is something they have to consider at some point. I just don't feel like it's fair.
What? You wanted the Dodgers and Padres last NLDS to go 7?
Why not? It would be it's a better product for Major League Baseball.
I mean, it's a better revenue source for sure, but I mean, I don't want the MLB postseason to end up like the NBA where it's freaking 3 months.
No, because there are more teams that get in the NBA than Major League Baseball, and you can play
not many now,
and you can
many more now.
Well, okay, but I'm saying that you can play games day after day. The NBA is stupid. They shouldn't have 7-game series for every round. I don't know why they switched to that. It's too long and it doesn't make any sense because you can't play back-to-backs.
My argument for why the 5-game set is perfect is because on a level playing field, you should be able to throw your ace out there twice. And if you're the opposition and you can't beat that ace twice, then you do deserve to go home, because I don't want to see teams skirt by, because let's say it's 2014 or whatever, and you got an MVP Kershaw and he wins those 2 games, but then they blow at the other games. Like, that's just stupid to me. So I'm good with that format.
All right.
And
I think the Dodgers, I really do think the Dodgers are the better team. I know that the Phillies have a better record and that they're the 1 seed, but I'm telling you, this team is underperformed. And once they figure it out, which could very well happen, where they just start to click on every single cylinder, they're going to be unstoppable.
Our biggest advantage right now is definitely the starting pitching. So how Dave Roberts uses that bullpen will certainly be key in terms of their success.
Absolutely.
All right, I think it's time to make the announcement. So, first off, thank you, Fansided. We partnered with you guys for a good 3 years and no complaints. Appreciate all you guys did for us. It was a great relationship and appreciate all the memories and the work that went into that. But with that being said, we have decided to make a move, and I wish I had my audio equipment to sound cleaner, but we have decided to partner up now with Believe. If you're not familiar with Believe, they are a big sports podcasting network. They've got representation for all professional sports teams. So not only Major League Baseball, but NFL, NBA. And now we are a Dodgers affiliate for Believe Podcast as well. So want to just thank them for reaching out to us and establishing this partnership. We're excited for moving forward with them.
Yeah, they reached out to us, which was cool. They had listened to our podcast and thought that we deserved to have a great platform with them. And they, talked about cross promotion and, us being featured on other podcasts and other podcasts in their network being featured on our podcast. We're just trying to grow this in any way we can. Kevin and I kind of do everything on our own here. And so we're hoping that Believe can get us some more exposure. So, but we obviously love the loyal listeners that tune in every single week. You're the reason why we're doing this. So it's great that you've been hanging out with us for a few years now, and excited for the new chapter.
Yeah. Thank you guys. No, we're not locked on. But Believe.
No, it says, is it like Locked On?
Oh, is it like Locked On? My apologies. I'm still on Hawaiian time here. No, we're not like Locked On. We're not doing it every day, but we will have a lot of content out there. And when the playoffs ramp up, we probably will be going live most days. So stay tuned for all that. Hopefully the longer the Dodgers run means more content and less off-season talk.
Yes.
The bullpen, I think, is going to be a huge topic and big mystery over the next few days of who's on it, who's off it. I've got a list of 13 pitchers that I think the Dodgers put on. Was curious, Jake, if you had any names that you think make it, but I guess I'll run by who I've got, and then you can see if there's anyone you'd take off or add on.
Okay, let me write this down while you're doing it so I can look at it visually. Right.
Sure.
Go ahead.
13 pitchers: Yamamoto, Ohtani, Snell, Glass now with an asterisk, so I'll go back to that in a second. Lefties, I've got Vesia, Kershaw, Dreyer, Bonda, Scott. That should be 9. Trinan, Henriquez, Sheehan, and Sasaki. So some notables that I left off: Robleski, Will Klein. Those are and Kasparius.
I know that Scott is probably going to be on there, but if he wasn't being paid what he's being paid, I would totally replace him with Robleski in a heartbeat. Yeah. I like what I've seen from Robleski. He's a Swiss Army knife in that he can fill many different roles. He can go multiple innings. He can be a lefty specialist. He can pitch in high leverage if you absolutely need him to. I've just been very impressed with what I've seen from him so far. So that would be the only change that I would make here, because you got to have all the rest of these guys on here. I don't think that they're going to go to Kasparius. If they did, he would be up with the team right now, and I just can't see him on there. But I do want to make a formal apology. I tend to do that a lot because my takes age like milk. But I had said that, I kind of felt like that Colin Cowherd thing where he's saying we don't need you, LeBron. It's all good. Ben Simmons is here. I felt like that same sentiment when I was talking about Sasaki not being on this postseason roster, where I was like, it's a failed experiment. Just try again next year. It didn't work out. But the Dodgers are bullish, and thank God that they are, because they were like, no, we made a huge investment and wanted Sasaki on this team and wanted him to be on this major league roster this year. It hasn't worked out starting pitching wise. And with the starters that they have available, I couldn't see him cracking the starting rotation at this point. So the fact that they were able to, basically make him into a high leverage reliever, it has been nothing short of amazing. And Kevin, I don't know if you were watching his outing the other night when he came out of the bullpen, but it seemed to me like he had like a different attitude about himself. I felt like in the first part of the year when he was starting, he looked nervous. He looked a little like deer in the headlights, starting with that game in Japan and just every kind of start after before he got hurt. But he looked like he was pitching with much more intensity and a grit. And I don't know if you felt that same way, but I felt it when I was watching him. And if he can be a guy, wow, that is like an unbelievable acquisition that they just made.
It was really the only way to salvage his season because there was just no way he was going to get it done as a starter at this point for this current year. But I'm glad they made the transition to the bullpen. We've seen him do it in the World Baseball Classic, where he can come out of the bullpen in high leverage and throw 101 miles per hour. And I agree with you. He just looked like he had a new confidence that he was strutting out there. I think it's just a lot easier on him as well from a mentality standpoint, knowing that he only needs to go out there for one inning. So I'd like to see the Dodgers use him in a 1 or 2 inning role. He can throw 100 miles per hour out of the bullpen. He also noted that he's dropping the slider, at least for the rest of this season, because he indicated that the slider was causing him the shoulder injury. So he's added a cutter to his repertoire. So now he's going to be a splitter, fastball, and cutter pitcher out of the bullpen. So that'll be interesting to see how Sasaki's able to keep hitters off balance. But I mean, if he's going to throw 98 to 100 miles per hour out of the pen, that'll certainly play, because there were points in the season earlier where it was kind of scary because he was throwing like 93 and then he went on the IL.
Yeah, no, he looked really good last night. And not to mention Kershaw. Kershaw also looked really good last night. And I know that Kershaw has had great moments in the postseason coming out of the pen and not so great moments coming out of the pen in the postseason. So I am cautiously optimistic, but with what I've seen so far from Kershaw this year, I like it as well.
I'm terrified, to be honest. He did get up to close to 91 miles per hour, but Dave Roberts, I'm just fearful he's going to get a little too cute here. Yeah. And you might see Kershaw in a scenario where he's facing Juan Soto again. And I don't want that, to be honest.
No, I don't want that either. And you're right. I feel like Dave is going to get a little sentimental, seeing as how it's Kershaw's final year, that he's going to throw him into a situation that he really shouldn't. And it's going to be, I don't want to say it's going to be a disaster, but we're going to be nervous. But I think it's worth, Kevin, going over these names and just kind of, ranking them in terms of high leverage, like who's first out the door, who, and maybe it doesn't even get to Kershaw if you have a pecking order here.
Okay. So it's definitely a bullpen by committee situation at this point. No dedicated closer, but I mean, I can't really do first out the door, but I'll do, I guess, more like last out the door in order of importance. So if it's lefties, Vesia is the top lefty that I'm going with. So 8th, 9th inning, whatever that is, Vesia, he's got the crown. The righty situation is just fucked. I mean, Trinan isn't that dog. Henriquez has been kind of bad recently. He's given up some home runs. Sasaki just unproven at this point. So it's going to be interesting to see how they use Emmett Sheehan, but I think he's that guy right now.
Yeah. If he's not piggybacking anybody else, like in terms of using him more in a traditional bullpen role as opposed to kind of the long man. I don't know what their plan is there, but the right-handers are, it's a crapshoot a little bit because they've had a lot of guys that should be better than they are, and have been shaky. So I think the guy that I trust the most out of this group that you mentioned has to be Treinen right now. And it's not been based on really anything he's done this year, unfortunately. It's just based on him being a guy that has been in this position so many times, just relying on experience over everything else. I think for me, Treinen is my number one right-handed reliever. And then I would go Sheehan and Sasaki in terms of right-handers. But after Vesia, I like Dreyer.
Yeah.
Like I like Dreyer as my next lefty out of the pen.
Yeah, Dreyer and Bonda are pretty much neck and neck, so I can't argue either way. Those two for sure. So that's a good 3 right there. And then yeah, Tanner Scott near the bottom. Kershaw, they're just gonna have to find interesting routes to incorporate him. And then if the Dodgers get to the NLDS, I think they'll drop off a position player and add that 14th reliever because they have the ability to do so with Ohtani being a two-way player. So I think Robleski makes the most sense. I think he's another guy that just has stuff that plays well out of the bullpen. It's just a matter of how many lefties can you roster. Otherwise, if they feel like they need a righty, I think Will Klein is that next man up.
Yeah, I like what I've seen from Klein, but again,
Thank
it's like another unproven guy that we're throwing on there, and I like him. Maybe he can be this year's Kasperius, because I remember going into the postseason last year, Kasperius was not really on my radar as someone that was going to be a big factor in the postseason.
Yeah. The biggest question I think comes on the catching standpoint, Will Smith. What's his status? Right now, it's up in the air. We don't even know if he'll be available for the wild card series. He's dealing with that fracture in his finger or hand, so that's been holding him out. So I think we talked about this last week because Will Smith has that hand fracture. You can't really go into a playoff scenario rostering just 2 catchers, because if there's a setback with Will Smith's hand and you're limited to 1 catcher and then that guy gets hurt, you're kind of screwed. So I think if Smith's available, then yeah, Will Smith's for sure on and will be starting. And then Ben Vortvet is their backup catcher. I think he's earned that nod. And then I think Dalton Rushing still makes the team as kind of that pinch hit guy.
Do you see a scenario where they carry Will Smith as just a bat, like off the bench late game situation?
If he can swing it, yes.
Yeah, because I could see that happening where Rortvet has kind of earned the right to be there. The pitchers seem to like him a lot. I love his attitude. He's got this like gamer attitude about him, and he's scrappy and crafty, and he gets hits occasionally, and is a smart baseball player. So I could see a scenario where Rortvet gets the start, and then if Will Smith is able to swing a bat, you put him up there in the 8th, 7th, 8th, or 9th inning. And then if he can't catch, you have Rushing there. But I do think that if Will Smith is healthy or ish, they're carrying 3 catchers for sure.
Yeah. Hit that like button. If you've got questions for us, there's still more time to get your questions in there. Dodgers are NOS champions yet again. Let's talk about the lineup now. I want to hear your prediction of how they roll out this lineup. Let's say it's a right-handed starter, and then I'll give you my take.
Okay. All right. Let me just pull up a lineup real quick. Okay. So this is what I got. For a right-handed starter, we've got Ohtani, Betts, Freeman. Then I would think, this is where I would be like, do I want to go Teo here or do I want Muncy? And Muncy's kind of cooled off a little bit, but he's clutch. So I guess against a righty, I would go Muncy, Teo.
Okay.
And then I would either go Pages Edman or Edman Pages, one of those two. And then I would go with are they're real I would imagine that are they going to start Conforto at all?
That's up to you right now.
I don't want him in there. I don't want him in there at all. I don't care how like he only hits well against the Giants, and we're not playing the Giants in the postseason. So I don't want Conforto in the lineup, but I could see them putting him in there. And then I think does that leave like Miggy Rowe and Rortvedt down there too? Because I feel like I would have them in there as well.
Okay. I think you lost me a little bit with what you're rolling out there with, but I think I'm mostly on the same page with you. So Ohtani DH, Betts shortstop, Freeman first base. Let's say Will Smith's available. So I got Will Smith next hitting cleanup at catcher. And then I would go probably Muncy hitting fifth at third base. Teoscar Hernandez. I mean, I would put him in left field, but I know they're going to put him in right field. So I'll go with Teoscar in right field hitting sixth. Batting seventh.
Pages or Edman?
Pages. Yep. So Andy Pages in left field. And then this is where I'm hoping. This is what I'm hoping the Dodgers do. I don't know if they're necessarily going to do it, but I think Miguel Rojas has earned the right to be in the lineup, especially over Michael Conforto. So I'd put Miguel Rojas at second base and Edman in center field.
Yeah,
and I'd pretty much roll that out there every game. I think I know the platoons and all that, but I think that's the lineup you roll out there every game. And then if you need that back pocket play, and let's just say Miguel Rojas or Edman for that matter are just playing like trash, insert Kike Hernandez.
Yeah, I think Kike needs to be. It needs to be, and Dave has done this before, where he starts out his lineup how he normally would, and then it's like Kike gets in there and shows you that he's still got the postseason magic, and then boom, he's in the lineup, and he became a starting player for us in the postseason last year because he's just too good to not have in there in October. So right. I think I would go either Kike or Miguel Rojas in the lineup. I don't care. I know one of our listeners mentioned that Conforto hit almost 300 in September. I don't care. I don't want him anywhere near this lineup. He stinks. So have him on the bench because they're going to carry him, and just, pray that he can get a pinch hit opportunity at some point.
Yeah, I don't trust him. He went to a World Series 10 years ago, but they lost. Miguel Rojas helped the Dodgers in his own ways with the Dodgers last season in a World Series winning effort. He's actually been a really good defensive second baseman as well for the Dodgers. So I think from just an optimal standpoint, Pages in left field is a much better defender than Michael Conforto in the corner outfield spots. And you get a good edge with Miguel Rojas, who's got like a +7 defensive runs saved at the second base slot this season. So
yeah, and you could easily maneuver it around too. I mean, you could throw Kike at second base or in the outfield and kind of rearrange, Edman at second. Yeah. It doesn't really matter. But I think defensively, you not only does Conforto's bat not warrant him a lineup spot, but like having Conforto in left and Teo in right has just proven to be a disaster. Like you want the best defenders out there. And to me, Tommy Edman in center field, Pages in left and Teo in right, even though I agree with you, I would flip those two and put Teo in left and Pages in right. But I think that's your best outfield to me.
Yeah. So we didn't really talk about it, but Clayton Kershaw announced his retirement, made his final start at Dodger Stadium. He came out to a standing ovation when he struck out Rafael Devers looking against the San Francisco Giants. Thoughts on that game? Thoughts on Kershaw? Thoughts on it all?
I think we kind of, the writing was on the wall a little bit with him. I mean, it's been year to year every season now where the Dodgers have kind of allowed him to have time in the offseason to decide whether he wants to play or not. But I've always kept his sentiments in the back of my mind, which is he wanted to pitch until he felt like he couldn't really pitch anymore. And he's having a really good season. And I think for him, it's like, I don't want to leave this game when I'm so bad that I just have to retire at that point. Like for him going out on top and being healthy again was probably a big factor in his decision to be like, you know what, whatever happens, happens. I have 2 rings, would love a third. And I think winning one for Kershaw this year would be extra special because he'd actually be a contributing factor on this team, unlike last year. And so I thought it was a great swan song. Like he just kind of has defied the odds and defied age and has adapted and become this different type of pitcher now. It has been fascinating to watch. Been my favorite pitcher I've ever watched. He's our Sandy Koufax. He's our ace. And despite what everybody says about him not performing in the postseason, as rabid Dodgers fans, we've also seen some pretty phenomenal postseason performances by him that nobody ever wants to talk about. So I just think it's an incredible Hall of Fame career, and I'd be shocked if he didn't go unanimously.
Yeah, he better go unanimous. That would be just a complete disgrace and insult to the just fantastic, unique, one-of-a-kind career that Clayton Kershaw put together. I have to imagine that this wasn't like a spontaneous decision. It was probably something that he had thought about for months. But I appreciate the fact that he never made this season about him, didn't make it about his retirement tour. He waited up till the very last home start to announce that 2025 was going to be his last season, and couldn't be more happy with how it was planned. I wanted there to be a scheduled final home start for Clayton Kershaw so that they could commemorate and honor him the way that he deserves. So I'm happy how that all played out. Now we'll get to see what kind of role he contributes in October. I'm sure whenever he takes the ball at Dodger Stadium out of the pen this October, crowd is just going to erupt with loud applause and a standing ovation when he takes the mound and when he leaves the mound. So hopefully he goes out on a very high note. The home stats for Kershaw were just phenomenal. He had a 2.26 ERA at Dodger Stadium. This is almost 1,500 career innings. He was just absolutely dominant at Dodger Stadium. And then another note that you pointed out with the postseason stuff, people don't talk about how dominant he was in the first game of the 2017 World Series.
That was an incredible performance.
7 innings. He had 11 strikeouts. The Astros couldn't touch him. And it's because of that game 5 with the back and forth and the cheating that it kind of just takes away and diminishes his spectacular series, because he was great in game 7 as well out of the pen.
Yeah, he was. And in a game that you thought, why didn't they just start him? Like if he was willing, if he was able to go, why wouldn't you just start him? Solely based on the fact that Yu Darvish just didn't have it against the Astros. So I loved what he did for us in that World Series, given the circumstances. And then, it's just tough because sometimes it's like you look at his relief appearances too, where in 2016 in the NLDS, he came out of the bullpen and saved Kenley Jansen's behind by shutting down the Nationals and clinching a spot in the championship series. And then you go to 2019 NLDS, where that was a moment for me where it was more on Dave than Kershaw, because Dave should have just been content with the one strikeout that Kershaw got and just been, happy with it. And I think that, unless it is a dire situation, I think he should just be good with whatever he gets out of Kershaw, not trying to push him. Same with Sasaki. I think that you only, have Sasaki go multiple innings if you really need him to. But if he gets through one scoreless inning or Kershaw gets through one scoreless inning, I think you just have to be content with that.
I'm with you on Kershaw. I think for Sasaki, if they have a two or larger run lead, ride Sasaki until he allows that first base runner. Then I pull the plug. But I would hate to see Sasaki go 1, 2, 3, and then they just pull him. And now you've got someone else out there who's struggling, because the theme with this Dodgers bullpen all season long has just been inconsistencies. So ride the hot hand, let Sasaki or Sheehan or Dryer, for that matter, go 4, 5, 6 outs if they're riding that wave. And then if there's one little hiccup, then you can pull them out. But I don't want to see Dave Roberts with these knee-jerk pulls. I really do think riding the hot hand is going to be important this postseason.
Yeah, I think I think what Dave is going to do is he's going to completely change the strategy from how it has been during the regular season. And it is going to be a full team effort of how they're going to roll out these pitchers. And I think Dave has earned the right at this point where I'm going to trust his gut. And I hope he trusts his own gut with riding the hot hand, like you're saying. Because if Sasaki is dealing, like you said, and it's a quick inning, then maybe you do roll him out there a second inning if you need to. But it all depends on the situation, because if you have Sasaki in there, if he's in the 8th inning, then might as well have him go the 9th inning. But if he has to come in the 6th inning, maybe you have him go 7. But there are so many other options at that point you could go to. So it's based on the situation and the matchup and all of that. But I think this is going to be a Dave Roberts, display of feel. And he's a big feel guy. So it's going to be a lot of that, where it's like you can't really do a lot of the analytics stuff that he'd like to do because these pitchers aren't executing the way that they're supposed to. So it's going to be a completely different look in this postseason.
Have we accepted that the Brock Stewart era is over, at least for this year?
Sounds like it. What a disaster.
Every time there's a Brock Stewart update, it just seems like his shoulder is re-aggravated. Same with Brusdar Graterol. So I'm going to just X them both out. I don't think they're viable options at this point. Tanner Scott, I think, is going to be the biggest wild card for this Dodgers bullpen. So that'll be my take heading into the playoffs. Tanner Scott is either going to make or break us. I'm thinking back to his most recent disaster outing where of his 21 pitches, 18 of them were sliders for some reason. The guy's going to have to figure out how to find ways to be more deceptive and get swings and misses. So I need Tanner Scott to step up. You're big on Blake Trinan. He's going to need to step up because, like you said, he's been there, done that twice. And I feel like even though he's pitched poorly this season, Dave Roberts is still going to go to him in the highest of high leverage situations, which is why I wasn't bothered the other night when they went to him, because I felt like this was one last test run to get his opportunity out there, and he did blow the save, but it is what it is at this point. Anything else, Jake, you want to cover? Any final thoughts? Anything else around Major League Baseball or sports that we should discuss?
No. I wonder if the plan might be more piggyback situations, at least in this wild card round. Maybe they do carry more starting pitching than they need to have that, like if they're not planning on Glasnow starting, like just having him available to pitch, 4 innings. Like if Yamamoto goes 5, he pitches 4 innings and there you go. And that's and those are your 2 pitchers for that game. And you don't even have to dip into the Vessias and the Dryers and the Trinans of the world. Like I could totally see a scenario like that.
Here's my prediction of how these games go. If you could script it in the most perfect fashion, game 1, Shohei Ohtani is the starter. He goes 6 innings. They hand the ball over to Emmett Sheehan. He gets a 3-inning save. 3 innings.
Yeah,
save.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's a similar situation.
That's game 1. Game 2 sounds like it would be Blake Snell. Blake Snell hopefully gives you 6 innings again. Then you hand the ball over to a combination of Vesia, Dreyer, and Bonda or Trinan. And then they're done.
And no Sasaki.
I would only go to Sasaki. It's really going to depend what the score is. I would not go to Sasaki in a 1-run game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if they're struggling against Snell, I think I would keep the lefties out there and try to ride that until they give me no reason not to.
But yeah, that's it. I'm excited for the postseason. It's going to be a sweat the entire time, but I think the Dodgers have the roster to win another World Series. And so I expect them to do that. And if they don't do that, then that would be a surprise to me.
All right. Well, I'm trying to think if there's any final thoughts or anything. There was something that was aggravating me earlier, but I can't remember. So I'll save it for another time. 3 games left. Dodgers at Mariners. We are the NOS champions. So whatever happens moving forward, we already know our fate. Dodgers are going to be the 3 seed. It's just a matter of who they get in the NL wild card. Shohei Ohtani better win unanimous MVP. Just going to throw that out there too, since I have a minute or so left. Kyle Schwarber, you had a great season, but it's got to be Shohei Ohtani. 54 home runs now. The guy scored an immaculate amount of runs as well. Jake, I'll ask you this real quick. Are you more impressed with Shohei Ohtani up to this point last season or this season?
This season because of how he's pitched, because he didn't pitch last year. And
yeah,
I think for Ohtani getting, 50 plus stolen bases is a huge feat. And also 50 home runs is a huge feat. But to hit 50 plus home runs and be looked at as a potential game 1 starter in the postseason, I mean, come on. Like that is just insane. And the fact that we get to watch that is incredible. So I feel like this season is more impressive to me.
I'm right there with you. 54 home runs this season, 101 RBIs, 144 runs scored. And when he stole over 50 bases last season, that was really impressive. But I'm okay with him only having 19 stolen bases because the way he's pitched this season has more than made up for it. He is a legitimate co-ace for the Dodgers.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back shortly in a few days to get ready for the NL wildcard round, just what we all have been looking forward to. Have a great rest of your week. And Jake Reiner, Kevin Klein signing out with the